Hey, so I want to talk to you today about judgments. All right, so I just recently returned from a SEALFIT training experience and put in this large group of men. There's actually one woman there, and we are exposed to about 12 hours, 12, 13 hours of all day long, um, grueling uh, workouts, tests, just all types of physical types of things that we had to go through. And the whole key to the day and getting through that day was us operating as a team, right? And so the funny thing is, like, whenever we were just starting out, like, we didn't know each other. Here we are, like 6 in the morning. It was a group of about 30 people, and you don't know these people, and people start to screw up. I screwed up. Everybody's screwing up in the beginning as we're learning from the instructors what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do. And so what were they doing? They were punishing, teaching us all as a group together, right? But still, you can't help to have these thoughts when someone's messing up. You've got to drop and do push-ups or sit-ups or whatever it may be. Be like, damn, what the hell's wrong with this person? Like we're judging them. So I want to talk to you about something that has been on my mind even before I went to SEALFIT, and it's just about judgments, right? So I've heard this a lot. Growing up in the church, I grew up in the church, and for those of you who know my story, like, I grew up in the church, but I kind of really fell away because I felt disconnected, like I wasn't experiencing or finding what I was seeking, which was just real truth and revelation and realness in my relationships and things like that with people. And I wasn't finding that in church, so I began finding other places. And so this, just lately more so, this idea of judgment has been on my mind because we've all heard it a lot. Like, you're not supposed to judge, I'm not supposed to judge, blah, 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 blah. The fact of the matter is that we are all supposed to judge. Okay? We were all created to make judgments. Okay? That is what we are made to do. All of the time, we are made to make judgments. All day long, we make judgments. We make judgments on distances when we're walking, engaging, where we need to turn. We make judgments on what is going on in a particular situation. With business decisions, we make judgments in relationships all of the time. As a matter of fact, I've got some scripture here in 1 Corinthians 5. Paul talks about, he condemns the church, like the people, for not judging, right? Like, we are given wisdom and knowledge to make decisions. Okay, so one of the critical pieces, though, is that we've got to categorize judgments. Okay, we've got to categorize judgments because there's essentially two types of judgments that we make. There's useful and non-useful judgments. Okay, useful judgments are judgments that will correct and help others through that judgment. Then there's non-useful. I'll call that righteous judgment, where we are righteously judging people and condemning them as if they're below us, as if we are better than them, as if we are God, and that we were sent here to judge them and condemn them. Totally non-useful. Not only for them, but you're really, when you catch yourself judging like that, you're really hurting yourself. Like, that's the bottom line. So here's the deal. Like, if you are not judging, you are actually not, if you are not usefully judging others, you are not loving others. Your spouse, your children, brothers and sisters, man on the street. All right. So we've been given this gift and this ability to judge only for one reason, and that is so that we can help. All right, that is so that we are given an opportunity to love others. But if we can't make that judgment, we're like, oh, I'm not supposed to judge, let me just look the other way, then you are not useful and being effective with gifts that you've been given. So some examples of this that we've seen over time, right? Like there's the whole let me share a story first. So there was a pastor who was in the parking lot early one morning before church, and he had a little notepad, and he was taking some notes, and he took the pen, stuck it in his mouth, and he was thinking. It's kind of cold outside, and like they could see the condensation, whatever it is, a little smoke coming up from just the cold air, and some of the people in the church saw, and so later on went back inside, and their pastor, we are so upset with you. We are so disappointed with you. He was like, what did I do wrong? And they're like, you were smoking in the parking lot. So rather than going and talking to him and finding the facts, they just went straight to judgment and condemnation. We see this all the time. All the time. All right. So you can look at the nightly news, like the tabloids. There's constantly judgments about all these things going on in other people's lives. Could they be true? Yes, they could. But we don't know. And how are we serving ourselves, right? With the time, the energy, and the investment that's spent doing these things. Look at things like the Salem witch trials, right? Like that's an extreme example. The Scarlet Letter, the fictional story about the Scarlet Letter, that's what goes on all the time, right? There's a movie, I think it was called The Hurricane, about this boxer in the 60s, and he was wrongly condemned of murder for like 20-something years. He went to the parole board every, 4 or 5 times, and every time professed his innocence, but yet he was still condemned, and there was evidence that was hidden, that was not known until like 26 years later. So, what is the point of, or what is the difference, between useful judgments, constructive judgments, and non-useful? So the useful judgments are designed to help. They are designed to help others. There's a big difference when you're pointing a finger at somebody versus putting your arm around somebody, saying, hey man, like tell me what's going on. Like, hey, like I saw this, and I just want to see if there's anything I can do to help, or if this is like what's going on here. Maybe there's something else going on. There's a big difference in pointing a finger and putting your arm around somebody, and that's a big difference. So we're going to talk about Matthew 7, and we're going to talk about that if you're not contributing a solution, then you are contributing to the problem. All right, and that's what a lot of judgments are. They're simply adding to the problem and actually making things worse in their own life and revealing things. It really comes down that you're revealing things in your own life. So the speck in Matthew 7. So Jesus said, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged, and by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at this speck, which is a splinter, in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So, what Jesus is obviously referencing here is like, how can you even notice this little thing, this little splinter in someone else's eye, when you have all this other stuff, all these other things going on in your world, these logs that are sticking out of your eye? You've got a log coming out of your eye, yet you can see a splinter in someone else's eye. Where is your focus? Where's your focus? So through some of my psychology studies, there's a phrase that's popped up through several of my trainers. Essentially says, if you spot it, you got it. If you spot it, you got it. Because if you're not contributing to the solution, you're contributing to the problem. So the fact that you are seeing that own speck, that splinter in someone else, without helping them remove it, you're simply spotting and revealing an issue that's going on in your own life. And the more you cast judgments, the more that you gossip, the more that you partake in these non-useful conversations, these non-useful judgments, this tabloid life living, you're simply revealing the lack of power and freedom that you have in your own life. Not only are you not helping your brother to help them to remove that speck, you're walking with the big log sticking out of your own eye. So the thing with that is like, yes, a splinter and a log are both made of wood. However, a log is a lot of splinters all put together. All right, so when we see these things, like, we simply have a choice. We have a choice to help. We have a choice to hurt, because our judgments are not helping that person. They're essentially hurting us. I like to call our judgments adrift. Judgments are adrift in terms of whenever we are focusing on others, other people's problems, other people's issues, it's simply adrift. And at times, like, it feels good in a sense, because it's taking the focus away from us. It's taking the focus away from us looking in the mirror and looking at what we need to fix. Like, oh man, that dude's life is a wreck. His marriage is a wreck. His relationship with his kids is a wreck. Dude, that dude's like sucking in business right now. His real estate, he lost all this money on a real estate deal, etc., etc. Rather than looking at our own lives, looking in the mirror, looking in our own eyes, searching for the splinters and logs that we have and things that we can improve upon. So when you are judging others, you are drifting. You are taking the focus off of creating your own results. Right? So on a plane ride back a couple of days ago from SEAL Fit, the stewardess got on the speaker. You've all heard this, like, in case of a problem or whatever, the oxygen masks are going to fall down. Make sure that you put the mask on first and you are breathing before you can help anyone else, right? So we've all heard this like a million times. Same thing is true with judgments. If you are not focusing on yourself and improving yourself and removing your own splinters, your own specks, and your own logs, then you truly are not going to be effective, and you're not able to help others with what is going on in their lives. So at the end of this text in the Bible, he also goes into, at the very end of discussing judgments, Jesus goes into this discussion about don't cast your pearls to swine. And so at first you might be like, that's kind of an interesting place to put that here. What does casting our pearls to swine have to do anything with judgment? So the way I see that is that our pearls are grace. Okay, so God gives us grace. He extends us grace. However, the more that we judge others, there's less grace that is extended to us, just because of the internal chaos and judgment and the conflict that we create inside. It's this energy that is created within us. But the more that we share, the more that we help others with their specks, with their splinters, to remove those things, we are sharing, like we are giving pearls to others, not for a return, but that is something that just simply will become. The more that we give, the more that we share love, the more that will be given to us. And this is simply the pearls of loving unconditionally, but also just not judging others and seeking to help. I should say not righteously, non-usefully judging others, but rather usefully judging others, seeking to help in the judgments that we do make. Because the fact of the matter is that the human brain, I've read that the human brain has 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. So the fact of the matter is we are making judgments all day long. We are making judgments all day long. The question is, if you're filtering out the non-useful, critical judgments and grabbing hold of the judgments where you have an opportunity to help others. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. So really, that's all I wanted to share. That was, for the most part, what was on my mind. It's just, once again, I want you to consider that the judgments that you have, these 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day, I don't know what percentage of them are judgments in your life, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of them could be true. A lot of them could be true. I have specks in my eye. I've got logs in my eye. Right? So you can judge me, and your judgment may be true. It may not be true. Your judgments of others may be true. They may not be true. But if you spot it, you got it. If it's going on in your life, like, look in the mirror, put your oxygen mask on first, find out what it is that you need to fix in your life, and then turn your focus towards others and helping and serving them and helping them remove the splinter that may or may not be in their eye. But focus on yourself first. Peace.